if at first you don't succeed, don't be surprised.
I love that.
Try it again. Do something else. Yeah? So keep trying. And once again, like I said, the competition between uh, 5 and 9 is heavy, but after a little before, a little after, it cuts down pretty quickly. And be nice to people. It's a great trade. You learn every kind of industry there is. There's nothing that doesn't need an elevator in it. So sooner or later you're going to get into every type there is.
Hello, and welcome to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group. I am your host, Matt Allred. In this podcast, we talk to the people whose lives and careers are dedicated to the vertical transportation industry to inform and share lessons learned, building upon the foundation of those who have gone before to inspire the next generation of elevator careers. Today our guest is Jim Comley, president and owner of Embree Elevator. Jim started in the industry when he was 19 years old in 1950, and after a few years in the Navy, Jim returned and worked for Payne Elevator for many years. In 1973, Jim bought Embree Elevator, and to this day, he continues to work because he wants to. Jim is now 92, and he has been in the elevator business for 70 years. Jim loves what he does and has no intention of retiring anytime soon. Jim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Matt, for inviting me on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be able to talk to you. I think you've got a lot of knowledge and experience to share, and I'm just excited to be able to meet you today. And wanted to ask Jim a little bit about how you got started in the elevator industry when you did back in the 1950, I think you said.
Yes. My father worked at the VA hospital here in Bedford, Massachusetts, and he was an electrician. And as being an electrician, he had to take care of everything that was electric, from the elevators to the telephones and the pumps at the filter station and all kinds of electrical things. And I went with them quite often on weekends just to just to be with him. And he taught me a lot to start with. And he took care of the elevators also. And when he couldn't take care of the elevators, you'd call in Payne Elevator Company, which is a local company from Cambridge, Mass. They would come out and help him fix the elevators. And so he got to know a few of the guys. And when I get out of high school, I was going to trade school in Boston. It was called Franklin Tech. And he said, well, why don't you talk to these fellows at the elevator uh, union and maybe you can get started with them. So I talked to a few guys there and they signed me up with the elevator union at Payne Elevator Company. And I've enjoyed it ever since. Started out as an apprentice, worked there for a year. And then after a year, I was called into the Army, but I'd rather join the Army. I joined the Navy. I didn't want to be walking. I'd rather be sailing. So
Sure.
I joined the Navy and served 4 years there. Came back out and I told my boss that I was going to go to college because I had the GI Bill. He said, "Nah," he says, "I never went to college and I've got a good job. Stay with me." And I said, "Okay,
So
I'll
tell me
listen to
about
you."
that a little bit. So when you finished the military, what were you going to study in college when you came out of there?
Engineering. I was
Okay.
going to go to
All
engineering
right.
school.
So
Very good.
tell me a little bit about, did you ever regret not going to engineering school?
No, I didn't because I got out and I was making a pretty good pay at the time on the elevator business. And after a couple of years, I got to be a licensed elevator mechanic. In 1957, I became a licensed mechanic in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and Massachusetts. I got my licenses and started working on elevators because the office that I worked out of was in Lowell, Mass,
Right.
and we took care of everything north of Lowell.
Okay.
And they had the factory, of course, was in Cambridge, and another office was in Boston. But I worked out of the Lowell office and took care of everything, as I say, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and had a lot of travel, a lot of experiences, and quite often it was uh, in factories. Most of the time it was in
Okay.
factories. There was a lot of freight elevator work that I did, and a few elevators that they put in the hospitals, and one of them they put in the Capitol building up in Vermont, the Capitol
Very,
building in
very
Vermont there,
cool.
and put some passenger elevators up in Maine and Augusta, Maine. There was Augusta Main Hospital and
Yeah.
worked up there.
So Jim, what was it that kept you engaged in elevators? I mean, you obviously had some different plans. You joined the military for a time. What kept bringing you back to the elevator industry, or making you
Right.
helping you stay?
Well, in the elevator industry, we get to go into all kinds of businesses. Places like Raytheon that are very secure.
Sure,
We could walk in there like we owned the place. Go to the bank, they would invite you in, or even the colleges. I worked at a lot at the colleges in Boston, Harvard, MIT, BU, BC,
sure.
and all those colleges. They'd always invite you in because they needed you. And I get to meet a lot of different people in all different industries, and it was very exciting business. And even today, we still get to see every industry there is,
Yeah,
and it's been always good. And I enjoy working with my hands, and I never always felt that I'd get to the job early in the morning and leave late at night because the competition cuts down pretty quickly after 5 o'clock at night or before 8 in the morning. So I always try to get there a little early and stay a little late.
right.
Make
So
sure
you told me you're still working to this day, that you show up in the office and work when you want to. Is that right?
yeah, I work when I want to. My daughter and her husband, she's the vice president. My son-in-law's a uh, CFO of the company, and they run it for me, daily and nightly, of course. Business may have to be ready to go any time of night. And, but they run the business for me now. My two sons are separated. They one of them has a small elevator company for home elevators. He lives up in New Hampshire,
Okay.
and my other son he's working at the Portsmouth Navy Yard, taking care of their elevators. So he doesn't work for me anymore. And
Right.
now he's the one that has the elevator museum
Right.
up in Amesbury, Mass.
So you've
And
got
we have a
an
yeah,
elevator family these days. I mean, just
yeah,
multi generation.
yeah. And I'm trying to get my grandson to start in the business too. He's applied for the union, so he gets to have a few interviews before they'll accept him. So I hope to have him in there as a third generation elevator man.
Right.
Yeah,
What was
and he
it?
likes working with his hands also. So it's
Sure.
going to be good.
Yeah. What was it that motivated you to buy Embree Elevator in 1973?
Let's see. Well, they had a machine shop, and we once in a while we have an elevator part that we had to have repaired. I'd go over to talk to them in Lynn, and got to know the people pretty well. They were quite talented people. They had a small company. There's only about 4 or 5 people in the company, but the owner and his sister, uh, they were getting old. They were in the late 60s, and so they wanted to sell out. But they had uh, Mr. Embree had a son that worked in the machine shop, very, very talented man. And he didn't want to do the business. He just soon work in the machine shop.
Right.
Uh, so they sold the business to me, and I then I also had an interest in City Elevator. I founded City Elevator Company,
Okay.
but one of my partners took that over, and I went to Embree. So we split off, and I stayed at Embree, and he ran City Elevator for me.
Okay.
So,
Now,
uh,
before you left Payne, did you end up buying Payne Elevator, or did you were just working there?
we started City Elevator Company after there was a few of us at Payne Elevator, went to City Elevator,
Okay.
founded that. We worked there for just a couple of years, and then as I say, we had work at Embree Elevator in the machine shop, so I got to know those people quite well, and the opportunity came up to buy them out. So I did.
Well,
And
I think I understood that Embry was non-union at the time. Is that
oh
right?
yes, they were non union until 1996, something like that. They organized us, and then we became a part of the union. I was union myself until I bought Embree Elevator, and then I
Okay.
had to drop out of the union after I had a non-union job for a while. But then, as I say, in 1996, we did get organized again, so that we were since then been union.
Right. And I think you said you even have your union card. Is that right?
Yes, I still have my union card. Yep. Yeah, they accepted me back in the company. The fellow that was in charge of the recruiting said I could get back into the union, but the only thing I couldn't do was vote at the meetings. I could go to the meetings I wanted to, to do whatever I wanted, as long as I did. As long as I didn't vote, everything else was okay. I could work on them, or do whatever I felt like. But the only thing I couldn't do was vote for
Right.
some reason. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
today I could. 30 years later, maybe I could do
You
that.
you never know. So what
Yeah.
do you love most about the industry? I mean, it sounds like it's become part of your life and it's gets in your blood at this point.
Yeah, it is. It's really, as I say, it's exciting because you can see any kind of industry there is, and it's up in New Hampshire. They have a lot of old elevators, and I got on the elevator advisory board up there, and used to help the elevator inspector. He was a plumber at the time. You get to be elevator inspector, and so he needed some coaching. So anytime he found an old elevator that he had to go out and inspect, he would ask me to help him inspect the elevators. So and I got to see all the old stuff that he had up in New Hampshire because the inspector needed coaching on the old stuff. New stuff, he worked with another company called Stanley Elevator, and
Sure.
they put a lot of new elevators in. He worked with them also. You got to be you get to be pretty good inspector. Now he's retired.
Sure.
Yeah,
Is there a lot of old equipment still out there in what you see, or has it mostly been replaced?
yeah. It's mostly been replaced now because in Massachusetts they adopted the national code in 1989, and they want all the new stuff to conform to the national code now.
Yeah.
The existing elevators, Massachusetts still has their own code. It's just started in 1914, I think it was, and it's grown since that time. And I was on the elevator licensing board in Massachusetts for a while. When the fellows wanted to have a license, I had to make out a test and give them a test so they could qualify to be elevator
So you were the one
licensed
actually
mechanic.
making and administering the test to certify, huh?
I administered the test for licensing in Massachusetts, yeah, for a while. And then after that, I got on the elevator board of elevator regulations. I was on that for 10 years. And just before I got out for last year, I was chairman of the board of elevator regulations. I helped write new laws for existing elevators.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen during your career?
The solid state controllers that they make now and the computerized controllers uh, out of my league. My men all carry laptops now. That when if you want to service a new elevator, you must get into their software to
Sure.
understand what's wrong and how to repair it.
Yeah.
But that's something I haven't done. Computers aren't not my bailiwick. I don't care for them, and my daughter says she came in this morning just to help me get started with this interview. And
Understood.
my grandson lives next door, so when I get in trouble with my computer, when I want to turn it on, I should say, I ask him to come over and get started with me.
Yeah, yeah,
That's,
yeah. No, that's definitely a lot of change. Technology
uh,
doesn't slow down.
no, it doesn't. It gets every day they're changing themselves. I think the computers change, minute by minute.
Yeah. What are some of the best changes that you've seen just in industry overall, whether it's technology or regulations or um, what are some of the best things that
Uh,
have happened?
I'd say the technology for the controls of the passenger elevators are much more complex than they ever were, and they get more complex every day. I think that's one way they have of being com non-compete.
Sure,
So
sure,
once you put a new elevator in, they want to keep it forever on service.
sure.
And to do that, they have to put in little gimmicks here and there that we can't get into, so they can keep them. Of course, people jump from one company to another, and sometimes when they do, they bring in the knowledge from their industry into so we can service them. But so then I think that's the most the control part of it is the part that's machines themselves aren't too much different than
Sure.
they were years ago.
Yep.
Although years ago when we had them, they were water hydraulic elevators run right off of street water pressure.
Wow.
They were quite simple. You bring in the water pressure and push the elevator up, and then when you want to go down, you open a valve and let it all go out into the street sewer. So it was not very economical or environmentally friendly either.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna say that's certainly
yeah,
some old technology that wouldn't really fit in today's
no,
society.
no, they don't. They don't fit. But they worked at the time. I worked
Sure.
in one. I worked in one elevator up in Springfield, Massachusetts. It was 100 feet high at the city hall, and the top had rope shivs on it to keep some counterweight.
Right.
And the top of the building was getting kind of rusty, so they had to have us go out there and drop down the elevator 50 feet so they'd take the top 50 feet off of it and repair it, put it back up again. Then we went back out and got the elevators up to the full height again.
Right.
I don't know how they ever dug the hole 100 feet deep, 100 years ago, but they did.
Wow. Yeah. No idea how that works.
No, I had no idea how to, but they did it somehow.
Sure. So a lot of people tell me, especially if they're working in the trade, that their goal every day is to come home with fingers and toes and be in one piece. Have you ever had any close calls?
Just electrical shock most of the time. That's the most dangerous part of it. Is working around electricity. A lot of it is 550-volt
Sure.
AC jobs we have, and some even 500 DC jobs that work off in the city of Boston. They tap into the train system, the rapid train system, and they use the high voltage in their DC. They
Right.
don't do it anymore, but years ago they was pretty hot stuff they had there.
No, it sounds pretty. So it's more the electricity. You think that? I mean, certainly there's all kinds of hazards and
Well, there's
safety issues.
a lot of moving machinery there.
Sure, and the risk of falls, all kinds of that.
Yeah.
Um, so do you think you'll ever retire?
I don't think so. No. When the man upstairs wants me, I'll go.
What is it that keeps you coming back every day?
What's that?
What is it that keeps you coming back to work it every week?
Well, I just enjoy the business itself, and the people that work there. I got a lot of nice people there. One fellow is my vice president, Dave Lucy. He's been with me for 40 years since he was
Wow.
just a young kid, you know, auto mechanic, and came to work for me. And he's learned the business very well. He's a good man, a great salesman. So I enjoy talking to people like him that have been there for all these years.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
Got all your
it's good.
friends, especially for 40 years. That's a long-term friendship.
Yeah, and we have another fellow, the Mike Karen, his father worked for me at another at Payne Elevator company years ago, and he was started when he was also 17 years old, and he's getting about ready to retire too. So it's nice to talk to the fellows they, that part of the industry way back.
Right.
He's a nice fellow.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest lessons you feel like you've learned throughout your time in the industry?
One thing I try to learn all the time is to be able to find somebody that can take my job. I always want to try to move up in my job, so I'd always try to find somebody trained to take my job, and then I could move up through the ranks that way. And it's always worked out well. So
That's cool. That's
I say
cool.
one of them is that, yeah,
Yeah, just being able to develop your replacement, right? That's what they say.
that's
Find
it.
your replacement.
Find somebody to replace you, and then you can move up or move out,
Right. Wherever you want to
whatever
go.
way, whatever direction they need.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about what you're seeing in the industry, what would you change?
What would I change? Let me think now. What would I change? Yeah. I don't know. I have to think about that again, Matt, because it's been good to me. I've made a made a made a good career out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been fun, and even today I still enjoy the business,
That's
enjoy
awesome.
the people in it, and I enjoy talking. There's one of the fellows that in the union that is just got moved up in his business, his ranks, and nice fellow, Dave Morgan, his name is nice guy. He's just got a better job. He's in charge of educating the young fellows. They have a
Nice.
school called Deep,
Yep.
National Elevator Industry. Uh, it's like a school they have at night, and he's really developed that into a big business that works well.
Right.
And talking to people like him that are trying to teach young fellows how to be safe, of course, and also to learn the trade. So not going out there and say, "Well, I can't fix it. Buy a new elevator." So they go ahead with them that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you look back over your career, what's one of the craziest stories you can think of, or one of the funniest things that had happened?
The funniest stories, huh? I have to think about that for a while. Uh, well, I remember years ago when I told you that some of the old elevators worked off water, uh, city water pressure, and they were water hydraulic elevators, and they had a huge valve in the street, maybe 4 inches in diameter. It would open up the valve so that the water would come in and push the elevator up from its pressure.
Right.
And in the wintertime, they were some of the valves are outdoors, so they would fill the pit that had the valve in it full of horse manure, and the horse manure was warm enough to keep the valve from freezing, so the elevator would still operate.
So they did that intentionally. Is that what you're telling
Yeah,
me?
yes, they did. They
I thought
intentionally
you
put
meant it was
horse
accidental.
manure in the pit that kept the big valves warm. Yeah,
Keep them from freezing up then, huh? That's
yeah. And I think I told you about another elevator they put in the Capitol building up in Montpelier, Vermont.
right.
The first time I went into service it after it was installed, the fellow in the building, the maintenance man said, "What is the story with this? They got all these little pans next to the elevator, to catch the oil." He said, "Why don't they keep the oil in?" I said, "Well, it's part of the system. Is this you get rid of some of the old oil and you put in new oil?" He said, "Why don't you keep it in?" I said, "No, that's not the way these work." And they always seemed to be good. They would leak a little bit, would pick it up
Right.
in a little pan and then put in new oil to refresh it. So we always kind of a system of
Yeah. Yeah.
keep new oil in there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So if you could offer a bit of advice to people who are new to the industry, what would you tell them?
Let's see. My favorite expression is if at first you don't succeed, don't be surprised.
I love that.
Try it again. Do something else. Yeah? So keep trying. And once again, like I said, the competition between 5 and 9 is heavy, but after a little before, a little after, it cuts down pretty quickly. And be nice to people. It's a great trade. You learn every kind of industry there is. There's nothing that doesn't need an elevator in it. So sooner or later you're going to get into every type there is.
Yeah. Tell
It's
me tell
good.
me a little bit more about you said the competition between I think 9 to 5. What do you mean by that? Do you mean just if you work a little bit extra?
Yeah, if you're a clock watcher, at 5 o'clock and you're
Right.
out the door, you might leave something that a few minutes more. Even if you sweep up after you leave the job, that's one thing that I always try to make sure that things are clean and neat. You know, just do a little something extra. Give the customer a little more than somebody else will do it, and you'll be able to advance yourself in the business.
Thank you.
As of
That's
course, listen to the old timers. That we had one fellow that worked for me, or that he worked for me, but I worked for him to begin in the business.
Right.
And he always said, "Look at you're here as my helper, but the man in the office, he's two men. He's paying two men. You don't want to see one man just handing the other guy tools.
Right.
So go to work, both of you, both working. So the man's paying for two. You work for two guys. Work with the guy, not just handing them tools or standing there watching. So give the man, give the company uh, that you're working for, give them what they do.
Sure.
Another company, that Payne Elevator, where I first started, their motto was the customer's always right. So make it right for the customer. Make sure he's happy when they leave there, and yeah, that'll satisfy people.
Sure. Did that it was kind of that motto that you took on and applied in
Yeah,
your work then?
yeah. Always try to advance in your field and pass something on to the people below you so that they know what's going on and try to be safe with them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's a like I said, it's a high risk industry.
yeah.
There's a lot of chances to mess up, but
A lot of moving machinery all around you.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you gotta be careful. Always, my two sons started with me in the business years ago, and I was always weary of letting them work alone.
I was gonna say, did that make you pretty nervous to have them working there with you at times?
Oh yes, yeah. Some of the older elevators were more dangerous than the newer ones.
Sure.
A lot less guiding equipment on them than there is today.
Well, I'm sure, yeah, that was before OSHA's day, and so just some of the regulations just weren't there. And I've heard some stories of, a mechanic told me a story about he was the counterweight on the end of a beam for a machine that they were replacing.
Oh
And
boy,
trying to imagine that.
yeah. Oh God, but it's a nice. You get to learn everything. You're a carpenter 1 minute, the next thing you're a plumber, and then
Hmm.
you're a, you're you're a steel worker, all kinds of trades. So you have to know them all.
Yeah, yeah,
And I talked to one fellow. He's an engineer for Payne Elevator Company. He says, "Don't." If somebody says they're an expert elevator man, he says, "Stay away from him. He's not true because nobody's an expert. They get a lot. They have to learn."
well, and once you've learned a lot, there's still a lot more to learn. I mean, you've been at it almost 70 years, and you said, well, these computers, I maybe I don't you don't feel as comfortable with the computers as you do with the old stuff, as it sounds like. So there's always something new to learn.
That's right. The old stuff was really good. I enjoyed it.
The,
And
the good old days, right?
the good old days. We used to call the old elevators black gold.
Why was
Not
that?
many,
Just
like they're all dirty and greasy, and not many people would want to work on them. But we work on them and repair them.
sure.
Some companies would stay way away from. They didn't want to get, they'd rather work on something new than something old.
But like you say, it was providing a good living and a good business, and
Yeah,
so that's, I guess, the black gold comes from.
yeah, it was a good living. That's
Yeah,
been good.
yeah. Jim, any other stories, any thoughts you want to share as we wrap up?
Let's see. No, I don't think of any other things that I could right now. Probably after you've gone, I think it's a few more.
Yeah,
But as I say, once again, it has been a great industry, and I enjoy it still today, learning about the new stuff.
yeah.
And of course, I still enjoy the old junk.
Sure. What
Yeah,
is it that let me ask you a few more questions and just see if we can um, get a few more thoughts. And I guess one of the questions is what is it that you think keeps people coming back or just staying in the industry for years and years and kind of like yourself, never wanting to retire? What is it that makes the elevator industry draw people into it and keep them?
I say it's quite varied. But 1 minute I say one time you're a carpenter, the next thing you're a plumber or a painter, or you're working on machine bearings and things like that. Years ago, we used to have bearings that were made out of lead, and
Wow.
we used to pour the lead, ship out the old bearings, and pour new lead in them, and it's a very lots of different things. And today, there's not too many guys that do it because there aren't any elevator machines out there with the old Babbitt in them.
Sure.
It was lead they called Babbitt because they had tin in it. Also made it stronger, not just lead. And but was all good old stuff. Today don't they don't want you to they don't want you to repair it. They want you to throw it away and buy a new one. They do have escalators today that are guaranteed for 10 years, but we've seen escalators that run for 100 years. So,
Oh, wow.
in fact, there's a couple of pieces from an escalator in Macy's. It came from Macy's department store in New York City. That's my son Steve has a museum now that were working for 100 years. And just took them out, put some new ones in, gave some of the parts to Steve to put in his museum.
That's amazing. Are those the escalators with the wooden
Yes, with
steps?
the wooden treads in them. Yeah, they're 100 years old. Yeah,
Yeah. That's certainly before
yeah,
my day. I've never seen the wooden
no,
treads, but
yeah. And I talked to Mr. Farnsworth, who was with Eastern Elevator in Connecticut, and he's one of the parts of a fifth generation elevator man. His grandfather or great grandfather made an elevator machine that ran for 100 years,
wow.
and then when they took it out, it was still running. They took it out and they put it in a museum in New Haven, Connecticut. So
Okay.
yeah, so they made them pretty rugged the old days. That was what they call a belt machine. It had a leather belt that operated the hoist.
Wow. Leather belt. That
It was
makes me
about
a little
6 inch
nervous just
wide.
hearing that, but
Yeah, 6 inch leather belt is probably about 20 feet long,
okay.
and it used to run off a motor, and the motor would run the gearbox.
Yeah.
But he was an interesting man to talk to, also. To say fifth generation,
Sure. Sure.
yeah.
No, that's
Well, keep
great.
it going.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you for your time today. It's good to connect. Good to be able to just tap into your knowledge and experience. And I wish you the best as you continue to build your business and keep the elevator industry going.
Thank you, Matt, for inviting me on.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Elevator Careers Podcast, sponsored by the Allred Group, a leader in elevator industry recruiting. You can check us out online at elevatorcareers.net. Please subscribe, and until next time, stay safe.